What's going on, guys? So I hope that everybody is staying healthy, staying occupied, just finding things to do while everything's shut down. In this video, we're going to be wrapping the dashboard trim on the FRS with carbon fiber. Now these cars already have this sort of faux carbon fiber look, but it's just like laser etched plastic or something like that. It's not very convincing, and as you might be able to tell, ours is a little bit scratched up. So we got the 3M carbon fiber vinyl. We're going to go ahead and install this, make this piece look like new. Of course, the first thing that we have to do to make this a lot easier to wrap is just to take it out of the car. So you're just going to grab one of your interior pry tools. Now if you don't have one of these tools, I'm going to list all the supplies down in the description. That way you get everything that you need to do this job. But I just went from the bottom like that all the way around, and then you can just kind of pull back on it just like that. So we've got our two pieces that we're gonna wrap. So I've actually got everything all set up to do this in my studio inside the house. So let's head in and get this started. So just like any other DIY, we want to start off by having all the tools and supplies ready to go before we even get started. So of course we've got the trim that we just took out of the car. We have the 3M carbon fiber wrap. By the way, this is a 1 foot by 4 foot sheet. That should be enough to cover most dashboards in most cars, unless you have like a Hummer H1 and the thing is like 7 feet wide, but the 4 foot by 1 foot should be fine for most cases. We have some rubbing alcohol and a rag to be able to clean the surfaces of this, get all the oils that might be on it from like your fingertips. Just make sure it's a clean surface before you start. I have some scissors and an X-Acto knife to be able to cut the vinyl out. Squeegee just in case, might not need this, but we have it just in case we need it. Then also these little sticks here, these are 3M Primer 94, and this is kind of like a vinyl glue. You can put this around the edges and it just helps the vinyl stick better. It keeps it from peeling up over time. And then lastly, we just have a hair dryer because we're going to need some heat. Now you could use a heat gun, you just have to be more careful that you don't accidentally melt the plastic, but with this we should be pretty safe. So the first step is just going to be to clean these really well, just like painting. It's all in the preparation. You want the vinyl to be able to stick as well as possible. So we've just got some rubbing alcohol, and this should kind of clean off any oils that might still be on the surface there, just from like touching it. I washed my hands before doing this, so. Also, it kind of had some dust on it, just from being in the car. It hasn't been cleaned recently, so this will just make sure that we have a nice clean surface to stick the vinyl to. And then don't forget to clean the back side as well, because this is the really important part where you want the vinyl to stick and not peel up over time. Especially around this part, this is like the radio area, so if your hands are like touching the corner, there might be some oil and stuff in there. So the first step is just to kind of figure out where this is going to go on the vinyl and kind of line it up, and then we can trim off whatever excess. That way we don't have just a ton of vinyl just hanging off the edge there. So I'm going to put this down approximately how it's going to line up. And you want to leave like an inch margin all the way around the edges. So I can go ahead and just trim this part off because we're not going to need that. So I want to point out one tricky thing with this particular dash is that we have two pieces that butt up against each other, and normally you could just wrap them individually and it wouldn't be a big deal, but because this is the carbon fiber, it's got that pattern, and we want the pattern to look continuous all the way across. So that's going to be one kind of challenging thing. We have to leave enough gap that we can still overlap over the edge, but we don't want the carbon fiber to be on like completely different angles when we install it. So I'm going to just carefully line these up so that they're parallel, but still leave like a ½ inch in between them so we still have some room to put the wrap around the edge. Right now I'm just going to carefully peel off the backing. Now when I ordered this, it came in a roll, as you might have saw me trim off some of the excess. What I did last night is I unrolled it so they could kind of flatten out, so just keep that in mind too. I think it's more of the paper itself that wants to keep the roll shape, but just be careful as you're peeling this off. And then I want to keep these two pieces like pretty much parallel to one another as I set it down. Still leaving like that maybe ½ inch gap in between. So now that I have them set down here on the vinyl, I can go ahead and split them apart, and at least we know that the carbon will still be going in the same direction on both of them. All right, now we just start wrapping. So now that we've got it pretty much lined up where we want to trim off some of this excess to make it easier to work with, but leaving like 1 inch to a 1/2 inch, that way we still have some to overlap onto the back side. Now this piece is pretty simple because it's basically just one flat section, but as I get to the edges, I'm going to use some heat, that way it's just a little bit more flexible and I can stretch it a little bit more to help it stick better. So now I'm going to trim off a little bit more of the excess. I put some cardboard down so I don't cut up my table with this knife, but my goal here is to leave about a 1/2 inch. That's what it's looking like I'm going to be able to overlap onto the back side. And when in doubt, you want to leave a little bit more and have something to cut off than end up coming up short. So just keep that in mind as you're trimming off this excess. So once you've got all the vinyl ready to be folded over, you got all the wrinkles and stuff from around the edges, you're ready to grab your 3M Primer 94. Now this is like a one-time use thing. It basically has a thing that you break the inside, and then it's got a felt tip, and then you basically have to use this within a day. It's gonna dry out. So just plan to do this all at one time. I got like a 3-pack of them, but if you're just gonna get one, just plan to use it up. So it's got a little dot, let's press it. I don't know if it's gonna make a sound. Yep. And then you'll see that going to the tip there. Then you're just going to put it around the inside here, and that's going to give the vinyl something to stick onto. It's kind of like a thick, almost like an oily liquid, and it definitely has a smell to it, so be ready for that. And I'm just going around the outside here on the plastic. And then on these corners, I'm going to make a relief cut. That way it's just easier to fold this over. And I'm even going to trim off a little bit of the excess. There is a lot of excess on this corner here. So just make a little incision, just like that. And then I'm going to add a little bit of heat to it. Then whenever we're in these tight corners, I just like to heat it up just to soften it a little, and that just helps it stretch over that edge a little bit better. And then again, this edge just has some hard corners, so I'm going to cut not quite to the edge, but just make some relief cuts. That way it'll fold over a little bit more clean. Well, there you have it, one side wrapped and complete. Just have to do this side and we'll be all set. So I'm not a professional vinyl installer by any stretch of the imagination, but I am really impressed with how this came out today. I've only done this a handful of times, but every time that I do it, I feel like it gets a little bit better. I learned some things along the way. Today, the thing that I learned was that those little primer 94, those little glue sticks, they do work really well for helping the vinyl adhere to the backside. My only advice with those is that they do dry out really quickly. Like from the time that you pop that capsule open, you only have about 5 to 10 minutes to work, depending on how warm it is in the room that you're in. So get the 3-pack that's got a couple of them. That way you just have them on hand and you don't run out or they don't dry out in the middle of your project. But besides that, I'm really satisfied with how this looks, especially the way that the weave lined up in that middle crease. That was like the main thing that I was concerned with this project. But I'm going to put a kit down in the description. It's got all the tools and all the supplies that you need to do this project. I'm going to put some other options. So it's going to have like the carbon fiber vinyl. I'm going to put like the brushed steel. That's another popular one that people like. So I'll put those all down in the description if you want to check them out. So check out what just got delivered this morning. I think I'm actually more excited about this than that vinyl wrap. So if you don't skateboard, probably just looks like a parking block. And well, because it is a parking block. If you do skateboard, you know this is like the quintessential obstacle, the thing that everyone learns to skate on. They're super fun. I actually bought this on Facebook Marketplace. It was like 55 bucks. No more like sneaking around businesses, getting kicked out of the parking lot, having the police show up. I finally have my own parking block to skate, so let's wax this up, see if I can do some tricks on it. This is probably the best $55 that I've ever spent in terms of enjoyment per dollar. I'm gonna have so much fun on this thing this summer, but give me a thumbs up if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe for more just like this, and I'll see you guys in the next one.